Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Candidate Forum sponsored by the Chelmsford Business Association. The Chelmsford Business Association was founded in 1990 by a group of local businesses with a simple mission: to advocate fair taxation for the business community. This means charging the same real estate tax rate set each year for both commercial and residential properties. Besides taxation, the association understands the importance of being a good corporate citizen. We support local nonprofit organizations like the Merrimack Valley Food Bank and the Table of Plenty. We also support community events like the 4th of July Parade and the holiday tree lighting, in addition to providing high school seniors with college scholarships. The association currently represents over 200 members, most of which are local small business owners. If you would like to learn more about the CBA or are interested in becoming a member, please visit our website at chelmsfordbusiness.org or call us directly at 978-250-3858. On behalf of the association, I want to thank Chelmsford Telemedia for televising tonight's event, and as well as the Select Board candidates for their participation tonight. I also want to thank the members of the event committee, Amanda Lucia, Doug Hausler, Jeff Hardy, and Jim Cullen, for their time and effort in making this event possible. And without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's moderator, Amanda Lucia.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everybody, and a special welcome to our candidates tonight. Thank you very much for being here. Each candidate will have up to 1 minute to respond to each question. Candidates will be asked questions that were prepared in advance by the Candidates Night Committee, as well as the opportunity to ask one question to just one of their fellow candidates. At the end of tonight's program, each candidate will be allowed to make a closing statement that is not to exceed 1 minute. As moderator, the Candidates Night Committee allows me to interrupt a candidate if the answer by that candidate is construed as non-responsive or needs clarification. There are 4 candidates seeking to win one of the 2 available positions for the Select Board: Mark Kuroda, April Danielson, Latasha Dixon, and George Dixon. At this time, I will read each of their respective introduction bios. I would first like to introduce Mark Kuroda. Mark and his wife, Joanne, have been in Chelmsford for 33 years. Their 2 adult children, Holly and Matt, both graduated from Chelmsford High School. Mark has been a member of the Chelmsford Zoning Board of Appeals for the past 10 years and currently serves as vice chairman. In this role, Mark has the pleasure of meeting many of our residents, those he served with, and those who have come before the board. He has also sat on several 40B comprehensive permit applications, which carry a different set of requirements and challenges. During his tenure, Chelmsford achieved 40B certification and safe harbor status. Mark believes his background as a United States Air Force veteran, former pharma executive, and officer of a publicly traded company, as well as his prior management and business experience, will be an asset to the Select Board. Finally, Mark is excited to participate in this forum so you can get to know him better. Thank you, Mark. I would now like to introduce our second candidate, April Danielson. April Danielson grew up in a rural town in Virginia. After relocating to Massachusetts, she became heavily involved not only in her church, but also in community service and extracurricular activities. After high school, she went on to attend Zion Bible College, where she studied systematic theology. April's career began as the youngest program manager at a human service agency, where she managed a group home for adults with disabilities. Since then, she has steadily and consistently progressed in her field, working her way from direct care worker to rehabilitation coordinator. April also worked for the Department of Developmental Services for the Commonwealth as a service coordinator. Throughout her career, she's served on several committees advocating for human rights, diversity, and inclusion. April attributes her leadership and communication skills to her successes within her career. If elected, April Danielson is ready to apply those same skills to the Chelmsford Select Board. Thank you, April. I would now like to introduce our third candidate, Latasha Dixon. Latasha Dixon is a mother, a full-time employee, and a concerned citizen. She is currently serving as vice chairperson for the Chelmsford Diversity, Racial Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Latasha launched her candidacy for the Chelmsford Select Board early in January 2021. She sincerely wants to serve her community, listen to the concerns of residents, bring her experience to the board, and work with other town leaders for the betterment of Chelmsford. Although Latasha has lived in Chelmsford for less than 3 years, she lived in a neighboring town of Lowell and has worked in Andover for more than 20 years. This area has become her home. She has a positive attitude, a can-do spirit, and believes agreements can be reached when people actively seek solutions. Latasha appreciates the opportunity to share her views with you, the Chelmsford Business Association. Thank you, Latasha. And now I would like to introduce our fourth candidate, George Dixon. George Dixon's family has lived in Chelmsford for 130 years. He is a proud Chelmsfordite, having served on the Chelmsford Select Board for 12 years and as town meeting rep for more than 20 years. He was chair of the Affordable Housing Committee and helped the town achieve 10% with regard to 40B, vice chair of the Housing Advisory Board, and chair of the Turf Field Committee. He's been liaison to the Senior Center, Chelmsford's representative on the Lowell Regional Transit Authority, and liaison to both North and East Chelmsford Water Departments. He has also helped to establish the town's Economic Development Committee. George loves the community and shows this through involvement with the Paul Center, the Lowell Boys and Girls Club, the St. John Parish Council, Chelmsford High School Alumni Association, and as coach and mentor for youth sports. He would appreciate your vote on April 6th. Thank you, George. And now we will get to the question section of our program tonight. So these questions we'll ask first to Mark, then April, then Latasha and George, and we'll go in a rotation afterwards. First question, Mark. Do you think that it's fair to overcharge commercial and industrial property owners by shifting the tax burden as classification does? Please explain your position.
Thanks a lot, Amanda, and I appreciate you guys having us on tonight. Actually, I've got my own personal view of splitting the rates and splitting them in a way that adds additional burden to the businesses. I don't think is right. I think it should be parity. I think that's the best way to go forward. However, where are we today? We're at 1.22. And I think given where we are and given the situation with the pandemic and et cetera, I think at this point it's going to be difficult to make too many changes this year. And it's really going to depend on valuations and many other factors, aid coming in from the state, et cetera, to really determine what we can do with it. But philosophically, I don't think it should be split in the other direction.
Okay, very much. Thank you. And April?
I concur with Mark. I believe that the split tax rate, I know that a lot of people in this room along at home have thought about this issue, and I've got questions, and when I wanted to run what is important about the split tax rate, I do feel that it is too soon to call. We were just was initiated in, I believe, December of 2018, and we've only been through a year of it, and also we had the pandemic on top of that. So I feel coming out of that just now that we should really look at it again and readjust if it is correct for Chelmsford.
Thank you. Latasha?
Yes, thank you, Amanda and the CBA for tonight. I want to say that I agree with Mark regarding the split tax. It's not fair to our commercial properties to be taxed at such a high rate. However, at this time, we do need to evaluate the data to see what is appropriate for the town of Chelmsford.
Thank you. And George?
Hi. Thank you for the CBA for holding this event, giving us the opportunity to express our views. I guess I'm the odd man out because I was one of the original people who voted for the split rate. In 2018, we had a non-binding vote in the town of Chelmsford, and the outcome was 2,830 people voted for a split rate, 735 voted against it. Now, but at the same time, I fought to have a small commercial exemption, which gave an exemption to people with the value was less than $1 million or had less than 10 people and had less than 10 people working for them. So in that particular year, the president had given the substantial tax savings to the corporate people, the corporations in the country. If there was, okay.
All right,
Thank
thank you very
you.
much, George. And for our second question, there's 3 pieces to this question. Are you a stakeholder in town, meaning do you own a business or a real property in Chelmsford? How long have you lived in Chelmsford? And what committees have you served on that have prepared you for this role, which is considered the top position in town? And we'll start with April.
Sure. I am not a stakeholder at this moment in Chelmsford. I rent, but I do have several friends that are residents in Chelmsford. I have lived in Chelmsford for 6 years. I have not served on any particular board, but I have been active in the community versus helping out at the CCA with different open mics that they would have for the kids. We had one time, I've also been assistant. I have 2 children. I was assistant on the Bynum School Parent Association. So I haven't served on any town boards, but I am ready to roll up my sleeves and do so.
All right, great, thank you. And Latasha?
Yes, I am a stakeholder here in town. I own a property, and I looked at property values prior to purchasing, and I noticed that Chelmsford maintains its value and has grown its value over time. I've lived in town for nearly 3 years now, and I am on a committee, the Diversity, Racial Equity, and Inclusion Committee, which was newly formed in September of last year after the social injustice movements of the summer of 2020.
Thank you. George?
Hi, yes. I currently live on 15 Edgelawn Avenue. I've lived there I've owned that house for about 20 years. Prior to that, I lived in 2 other houses in town. I grew up in town, so I've lived here, but being a stakeholder since I was about 22 years old, which wasn't yesterday. As far as committees, I've served on numerous committees that we mentioned earlier. Affordable housing, which we retained the 10%, and which kept the predatory developers 40B, and I know Mark is very familiar with 40Bs, so it was very difficult. We went from 5% to 10% in about 3 years, so we were, I thought we did an outstanding job. We mentioned the various committees and stuff I've served on. I've coached Little League Baseball. I've been a director of the Paul Center for 17 years. I was
Thank you. And Mark?
Hi. Yes, I am a stakeholder. I've been living at my current address for 32 years. I was on Parham Street, not too far from Town Hall, for a year and a half before we moved and bought a home. We kind of discussed a little bit. I've been on the Zoning Board of Appeals since 2011, and as George mentioned, we did achieve status for safe harbor and certification, which is a big deal for us, and we can go into that at another time. And that's probably about it.
All right, great, thank you. Our third question tonight. This past year, the town hired a full-time business development officer at a cost to the town of more than $100,000, including salary and paid benefits. The development officer's primary job is to try to attract businesses to relocate to Chelmsford. Yet, at the same time, at least 2 present members of the select board also wanted to adopt tax classification, a policy that certainly does not encourage businesses to relocate here. Do you agree that these actions are inconsistent, and how do you reconcile these decisions and votes? And we'll start with Latasha.
Yes, that's a great question. Having a dedicated person for business development, I think, is a great idea for the town, because that means that person has a focused objective. Companies are looking for a town with good culture, a good elected board, good community, a good source of labor from them to choose from, and Chelmsford has all of those items. We want to continue to attract companies to our town, big, small, everything in between. And although it may seem like it was a contradiction, I feel like they have been working very well, and they are bringing attention to Chelmsford, and before long, all our commercial properties will be filled.
All right, thank you, Natasha. And we'll go to George.
Okay, well, I'd like to congratulate Lisa Marone, who is the person that has that job. She's done a tremendous job, and she's attracted a lot of people here, and she'll continue to. Obviously, right now, we have a sewer problem, so it's gonna hurt us a little bit, but as far as the tax rate being the major deterrent for people moving into town, I think it's ranked in the 7th or 8th, and when they were looking at a certain town, they look for, I think on a list of qualifications, it's way down the list. And if they want to compare it to the local areas, I think ours is like 121 or 2. The other areas on Route 3 are all 175. Burlington, Bedford, Lowell, Billerica, and whatever. They're all at 175. Wilmington, Tewksbury, there was 165. So I think I don't think it hurts us as much. I think we just got to create more amenities down there, and the businesses will come, and we're a better town to live in than the rest of them. So.
All right, thank you, George. We'll go to Mark.
Yes, thank you. There is a little bit of a disconnect between the two things. I mean, we're trying to grow business, but at the same time now we're asking them to shoulder a little bit more of the burden. I don't think it's a lot when I've taken a look at it. If you look at an average home in Chelmsford and a comparable business, you're saving Chelmsford residents $300 approximately for the year for their taxes, but we're putting a $5,000 burden on a comparable business. I think that's a little bit difficult. I totally agree with George. I think Lisa Maroney's doing a fantastic job. I know that she just finished the rebranding out on the 129 corridor. We've got a new client coming in, Thermo Fisher, that just gave us $1 million plus in permitting fees. So I think it's exciting, and I think that she was a little handicapped over the past year, but I think she's doing a great job.
All right, thank you. And April.
Hi, yes, I agree with Mark on that. Lisa Maroney has done a great job with the 129 and getting the big corporations in. I spoke with her recently regarding different things about business development, and I can say that she's doing a great job with the new corporations, as Mark mentioned, that are coming in, Thermo Fisher. I feel as if that, along with the big corporations, we need to be small business friendly. If we haven't learned anything throughout this pandemic, it's really, along with the big corporations, the small businesses have been the thriving force of keeping us going in Chelmsford and whatnot. So I definitely feel that we should be big corporation friendly and, get 129 going, and also focus on small business, which she has done, and it is growing. So I commend her on that.
All right, thank you, April. Our fourth question tonight. There was a vote to not renew the town manager's contract. Are you open to reconsideration? Why and why not? And we start with George.
Okay, I've worked with Mr. Cohen for 12 years. I've been the longest serving selectman in his reign. Paul's a capable fellow. We've had a lot of great times together. We've achieved a lot of things. I voted for him, a raise for him many times, and I voted for an extension of his contract, I think, on 2 or 3 occasions. And so a couple of times we've gone out different ways. I mean, you don't get along with, you don't always agree with somebody. And the last couple of years, we've had a few differences, and we try to get them worked out, but and we're still trying. So I mean, he's got some time to go in his contract, and like I said, we've worked together for 12 years. Who knows what will happen? I don't have a plan either way right now. I just as I gave. Okay.
Thank you. Mark?
Yes, actually, the situation that started to unravel last January, not this past one, but the one before, with the town manager is actually one of the things that got my attention. And it's one of the reasons why I decided to enter into this race. As I looked into and researched it, because I've heard some top-level information, but I really needed to get the facts. And after looking at that and seeing the circumstances, which are out there, and anybody can go read whatever they want to and make their own decisions. But my conclusion was I really felt like I could come in on the select board and help to broker, some changes and some better dialogue to confront directly what some of the issues are and what some of the differences are between the select board and the town manager.
Right, thank you. April?
Yes, to renew the town manager to position. I don't really know the town manager or the situation that well, but I would look forward to, if elected, working with him if he is still in the role of town manager. And like Mark said, it's usually really about effective communication and where the breakdown is in communication, that we can solve the different problems and issues that we're having within the town management area.
Right, thank you. And Latasha?
Yes, Amanda, this particular question is very polarizing for the residents of Chelmsford. In my campaign season, I've talked to a lot of different residents, and they're either for keeping Paul or against renewing his contract. I think if I am elected, what I would have to do is actually see what the facts are, really meet with Paul, the select board, to learn what the issues are and try to work through it. To make a decision right now as a candidate is not appropriate because I don't have all the facts. But it is polarizing, and I would love to see us get beyond this so we can start focusing on some more serious matters.
All right, thank you, everyone. Our fifth question tonight. What votes taken by the select board in the past 3 years do you think were wrong or had the wrong outcome? And why do you think that those decisions were wrong? We'll start with Mark.
Okay, as we've talked about before, I wasn't in favor of the split tax, so that would definitely be one. And the second one would definitely be the town manager, and whether or not they wanted to, at that point, continue his employment, because the discussion that went on then was more about his employment than his contract. And I just felt as though those were two decisions that I thought needed a little bit more time and a little bit more consideration in order to, get a better outcome and a more positive outcome.
Okay, thank you. And April?
Over the past 3 years, votes, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, one second.
Sure.
Yeah.
What votes taken by the select board in the last 3 years do you think were wrong or had the wrong outcome, and why do you think that those decisions were wrong?
I'm going to have to pass on this one due to the fact of the matter is, I really don't know over the past 3 years what the issues might have been that I feel were wrong. I feel that select board, for the most part, make accurate decisions based off of what the constituents are telling them and how they feel as a whole that would benefit the town of Chelmsford. So I really can't answer that question regarding if I feel they have passed wrong issues.
All right, thank you. Latasha?
Yes, I would phrase it a little differently. I wouldn't say a wrong decision. A different decision that I would like the select board to have made was about the town manager. Either discontinue his contract or extend it for the 3 years, which is the standard for the town manager's contract. Some of the things that they've done very well is listen to the public outcry about social injustice movement by creating the diversity committee, and also by listening to the town when they spoke out about the new project in Centerville, in the center of town, excuse me. So those things I think they've done really well.
All right, thank you. And George?
As I showed this to you earlier, on Vice Council, there's a lot of things that will come up in this discussion that I can't, because I've been subpoenaed in the next trial. First trial just ended, and the second one is starting the 13th of April, and a lot of this, there's a gag order on us, so I apologize, but I can't.
Absolutely. All right, so our sixth question tonight, this is when our candidates can now ask each other one question to just one fellow candidate. So we'll start with April.
My question would be to George. Seeing that you've been on the select board for as long as you have, what advice would you give to anybody that wants to run for select board?
Enjoy yourself, if that's possible. I'm not sure it is sometimes, but I think what you have to do is be yourself, and you have to make your own decisions. Sometimes they're very difficult. If you're not ready to make a very hard decision and lose friends, then don't run. That's the best I can tell you. It's not an easy job.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Latasha,
So I get to ask the
you can ask
question?
a different candidate a
Okay.
question, yes.
My question is for Mark. You have lived in town for a number of years. How have you seen Chelmsford change over the years?
Oh, boy. It's changed significantly, I feel like, in some ways. You know, certainly if you just look in the center district and you look down at the redevelopment where Purity and the Marshalls used to be, and you look at what Win Stanley put in there, if you look at the CBS that got put in there, you know, it's a lot different. I think that some of the roads and the traffic lights that were put up downtown and that whole, you know, change has been huge because, as we all know, it used to be called Chicken Corner, and there was a reason for that. The ball fields, if you go down 110, they redid the ball fields in McFarland School area. That looks really nice. It's great for the kids to have those facilities, and they've actually done a lot of work on them more up my way towards the high school and so forth, so.
Thank you. And George, now you can ask somebody a question as well.
I got a crazy question, but I don't think it's crazy, but I just, Natasha,
Yes.
if you had to place a street light, a stoplight, anywhere in the town, where would you place that?
I would place it at French Street. That's where I would place it because when I'm trying to take a left-hand turn, I have to wait and wait and wait.
First Street?
French.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark?
Thank you. April, I was wondering what your thoughts were on that, the second grist mill downtown, as you know, it got overturned and so forth at the planning. I wonder what your thoughts were about that and maybe for development in that area?
Sure, certainly. I thought a lot about that. I live not too far from there.
Right.
I agree with the select board of them, I guess it's called overturning the development that's being built there. However, I feel that we as Chelmsford should purchase that land. I don't know why we haven't, but I feel that we should purchase that land over there and that we should utilize it for more community space, to utilize it for, because we're still in a pandemic and we need to get out in the community. A lot of homebound citizens need to go out in the community. I feel like we should be innovative with that park. I know we need parking for, you know, all the events in Chelmsford, whatnot. I feel that we should turn it into a community space and revisit how we should utilize that area, especially for families to utilize. I was thinking a community stage, because we do have the center, but we could utilize that as well, because people do park there in that area for the different events. So I would definitely be innovative with that space and hope that the town would purchase it.
Thanks.
All right, great. Our last question of the evening. We'll start with Latasha. Have you read the town charter and what did you find most interesting about it?
Yes, I've read the town charter, and what I find most interesting about it is that it actually details what the roles and responsibility of each individual board and committee. And that is what we need. We need a guidance document to help us so that when we get into situations and we're trying to figure out who's responsible for what, that it is detailed, we can go to that reference and apply it.
All right, thank you. And George?
Yes, I've read it a few times, and it gives a lot of, and it is a strong manager contract document. I don't like the idea of taking 4 people to get rid of somebody. I mean, I'm not looking at, again, it's not related to the other questions. It's just because we went in front of the Charter Review Committee, 4 of us, and we expressed our opinion. It makes it hard because all he's got to do is keep 1 or 2 people happy, and you know, when things aren't going right, you know, they can play tough or they can play easy. You know, it's easier to get them to play right if, you know, you get a little bit more leverage. And I think we've given up a lot of leverage in that's what I didn't like about it the most, to be honest.
Thank you. Mark?
Yes, I have read it several times, and I think it's an excellent document. I think it was well thought out, and I think it was well reviewed and revised. I actually went back and watched the meeting when they finally ratified it, and I guess it probably went into town meeting at that point. But they did a really good job reviewing that, and I've also looked at the Select Board Policy and Procedures, which is an even bigger manual and gives even more detail around, roles and responsibilities, which I think are important because it helps people to understand what the guiding principles are and what their roles are within that to keep everybody focused and on track.
All right, great, thank you. April?
I believe Mark stole my answer. No, I'm joking.
I'm sorry,
That's
April.
okay, I was just joking. I have read the town charter, and like Mark said, I do agree that it does give us a guide of what to follow, and it's very informative, and it's also available online, I believe. So all those residents, check it out. But I do believe it does, like I said, help and guide us with our bylaws and all those things for Chelmsford to really hold ourselves accountable as well. So.
Great, and it is online too,
Yes.
so residents definitely check it out.
Exactly.
All right, well now it's time for the closing statements. So everybody has 1 minute to make their closing statement, and we will start with Mark.
Okay, thank you. And again, thank the whole Chelmsford Business Association for having us. I think that, again, my background and some of the things I've done, whether it was in business or working with boards, because I've been on 3 boards and I've worked with one for over 20 years in the other role. So in other words, in the advised role, if you will, from the board. And I think that's extremely important kind of experience to bring to the table. I don't have any real estate, as we talked about. I don't have any real estate or financial interests in town. I'm doing this simply because I feel like the skill set that I have could contribute in a positive way to the select board. And I think we need to explore other ways to raise additional revenues within the town, whether that's from expanding business, whether that's for pursuing more state funding, and bringing and getting our friendly 40Bs to come in now that we do have certification. So that's what I would do.
Thank you very much, Mark. And April?
My closing statement, I just want to say I want to thank the Chelmsford Business Association, and I want to serve on the Selectmen Board due to I'm just a resident that wants to make change, and I know that being surrounded by the experts that do make the change would give me a step up to help along with that effort. So,
Thank you, April. Latasha?
Yes. Thank you, CBA, for this forum tonight, and also to you, Amanda, for moderating. I would like to say, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful and concerned citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. That's a quote by Margaret Mead. I am a thoughtful and concerned citizen. I want to serve my town that I live in, that I've invested in, and I ask for your vote, one of your votes, on April 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Latasha. George?
Okay, as you know, my name is George Dixon, and I'm running for re-election for my 5th term. I'd like to thank the CBA, the Chelmsford Business Association, for giving us the opportunity to get together with the rest of the candidates and express our various views. To the other candidates who are running, I really appreciate your interest and willingness to be involved. I'd like to see more people get involved throughout the town, as I've said year after year. The next 3 years are very crucial to the town of Chelmsford. We need to resolve sewer issues, work towards having our own state rep, which is drastically hurting us, improve our infrastructure, among many other things. I want the voters to know that I have the time, the experience, and the interest to do this job. I love Chelmsford. I respectfully request one of your 2 votes on Tuesday, April 6th, or by mail in or early voting, which is now available. And thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here tonight. It has been a pleasure to hear from each one of you. And a reminder to all our viewers to please vote on April 6th, Tuesday, April 6th. Thank you.